ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਨਿੱਘਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਸੰਗਤ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ sangattelevision.org ਤੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪਸੰਦ ਆਏਗਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਸੀ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਤਨ ਮਨ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਰੋਗਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਿਵਾਰਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਸਾਇੰਟੀਫਿਕਲੀ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਐਂਗਲਸ ਨਾਲ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ। ਮਾਈਂਡਫੁਲਨੈਸ ਇਜ਼ ਸਮਥਿੰਗ ਦੈਟ ਐਵਰੀਵਨ ਟਾਕਸ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਇਨ ਅ ਬਿਗ ਵੇ ਟੁਡੇ। ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੈ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਐਂਡ ਸਪਿਰਿਚੁਅਲਿਟੀ ਫੋਰਮ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਇੱਕ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਦਿਖਾਵਾਂਗੇ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਿਲੀਜਨ ਇਨ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ, ਕੌਨਫਲਿਕਟ ਐਂਡ ਕੋਲੈਬੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਇਸ ਵਿਸ਼ੇ 'ਤੇ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ। ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਮੋਟਿਵ ਜੋ ਸੀ, ਇਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਟੂ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਰ ਦੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਆਫ projects and good practice initiatives undertaken by various faith communities in terms of mental health awareness. How various faith communities are working to bring about awareness within their own communities. So how faith plays a role in bringing about mental health awareness in their own communities. On the occasion, various guest speakers gave their presentations to the people who were present, and among these, giving the Sikh perspective, was Dr. Jasvir Singh Grewal. He talked at length and gave his presentation about how the Sikh faith and the concept of humility, compassion in the faith helps in mindfulness and eventually the mental awareness. Let's take you to what he had to say on the day.
We are very happy to welcome our last speaker for the afternoon, Dr. Jasvir Singh Grewal. He trained in London, Oxford and Cambridge. He's a consultant eye surgeon, but he's been involved in charity work in Egypt and Syria. And he's the founder, presenter and organiser of Sangat TV, which is a UK base with worldwide viewers. And as you know, they're filming this afternoon. He's committed to the development of health in mind, body and spirit in accordance with the Sikh faith. And he's a volunteer with Guru Nanak Nishkam Siwak Jata. Is that how I pronounced it? Sorry. So you're very welcome. Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing you.
Thank you everyone for being here today. And I think that the first thing I wanted to volunteer is that I'm not a consultant psychiatrist. One of my questions was that why have I been asked to come and give this presentation? Is it because they couldn't find a better speaker? And what is it that you in the crowd here have come here for? Have you come because you're off on Tuesday afternoons? Or have you come because you work in the area? Because what we've got to realise is that whatever's discussed here, if it only stays here and it doesn't go out there, it doesn't get, for the reason why we're filming, the reason why we're doing it, is that conversations, great conversations can occur in groups, but if we're not sharing further from here, outside in the community, we're not doing collaborative exercises like this on a bigger scale out in the community, conversations can die. So I think what I'd like everybody in the crowd to think about is what are they going to do with what they actually hear here or they disagree with here? What are they going to do? So that's where I want to start. Now, the title that we were given was Religion in Mental Health, Conflict and Collaboration. So for me, I can only give the perspective from myself. From my accent, you'll realise that I grew up in Essex. I'm also the son of a migrant population that came from Punjab, and I grew up in a very working class background. I've studied in London and all over England, but essentially what I am is what I'm going to try to present to you. What I feel is what I'm going to try to present to you today, and I'm happy for conversation and disagreement wherever, or agreement if it ever arises. So I thought this was a really beautiful design, and in the Sikh faith, we believe that the foundation for any dharma or religion or helpful group of people is compassion. So without that base of compassion, there is no dharma, there is no religion, there is no spirituality. So what is compassion? A passion for the community, maybe. Yeah? To actually really feel with your community. And the roots of humility part of it, I thought, were really important. Now, I may have studied and I may have got to a point of being able to prescribe drugs, but does that really make me the most competent to do it? If I know many doctors that are ill with mental illness, who are sitting in practices, who are actually also then treating patients. So the cure doesn't lie with the doctors, neither does the disease, but the cure is something that lies within. And that's where Sikhism and the spiritual background to my talk is going to be based on. And being a person of science, I've studied neuroscience and I'm an eye surgeon, so I was, it's what I do, but what am I? The question is, what am I? Yeah? So the love part of it is true. Now, if I don't love the people that I treat, if I don't really have an affinity for them, do I really care about them? Or am I just performing a technical act of writing a prescription or doing a surgical operation and off you go, Mrs. Brown, I'm not really interested in how well you can see, but you're outside of my operating table now. So the treatment, the treater, and the treated are all a part of a continuum, and they need to work together. And that's the basis of it, and the love part is there, and that's the only way that I feel, and not I feel really, actually, the ethos that I come from, that's how the plant of humanity grows. So conflict and collaboration. First of all, in the Sikh faith, and in most faiths, but sometimes propaganda, etc., distorts it, we believe in a God of grace. It's not a God of punishment. You do this, you go to jail. You do this, and that's why you're ill. You did this, and this is why this happens. And my feeling is sometimes the conflict can be caused by some of these traits. So my God is better than your God. It's a popular today, but it's always been the case. So my group is better than your group. I'm better than you. Man better than woman. A lot of the problems within society existed and exist even today because of a subtle belief in any one of these areas. And they give rise to a form of mental illness. Am I mentally well? Am I mentally well? Am I a mentally well Superman? No. Do I suffer from mental health problems? Yes. Have I done throughout my life? Yes. So the first thing is also to recognize that 1 in 4 people in the world will suffer from a mental illness episode in their lifetime. By 2030, it will be the largest and grandest burden of disease in the world. So can it be a pill that sorts the problem? No. And I think conversations like today and gatherings like this today are really to try to find out the other facets to help in that treatment. I do move around a bit, so you're going to have to follow me. But I didn't want to go on in a huge chapter and verse about what Sikhism is about, because you can all do Google searches, but I wanted to just get a snippet of where it comes from. And first of all, the message is for the entire humanity. It doesn't say that you have to be a Sikh to follow Sikhism. If you're a Muslim, be a good Muslim. Be a Hindu, be a good Hindu, and so forth. The messages in the 1,430 pages, it's a hefty, our holy book, are for the upliftment of humanity. And some of the messages I've shared with you in the diagrams come from that text. And only if you go into it, it doesn't matter if I sit here saying to you, that it does this for you. Only what you take from it and you put into your life will heal you. And it's the same with everything. If I come over to, we have the Kumar and Clark in medicine. So if I go over to the book and say every day, thank you for being there to look after me. Thank you, Kumar and Clark Medicine. Thank you very much for being there to look after me. And I pay my obeisance to you, medicine over compendium. But I do not know what's within it, and I do not practice that, more importantly, with my patients, then I don't really know what it's about. And a lot of health care has been monopolized or pharmaceuticalized. And that is a fact. If you go to a lot of the pharmaceutical talks that talk about how these studies are conducted and where they were conducted and how the drug was passed, you won't be taking very many medications. Now, it's not that I disagree with medication and science altogether. What I'm saying is that it's not a solution complete within itself. So I come from this faith which believes in a universal message for the entire mankind. That is that you over there have the same problems that I will have in my life. There will be variety. We laugh the same way. We cry the same way. You've all seen those panorama and those kind of little shows that show, how we all act as humanity. Well, the actual cures for all of humanity are probably similar as well. And what this text, is actually an upliftment of humanity, and it actually gives in there little universal laws. That what happens if you do this? This is why, for example, your family, your attachment with your family, or anger, or envy, or ego, as we'll talk about a little bit later, why they affect your life and why they cause many of the problems. It's a universal text because it's got contribution from not just Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, and other facets have all contributed to all the Guru Granth Sahib. Guru Nanak, probably the well-known guru probably of our faith, he was a great coach because he didn't go to the pundits and say to them, "Why are you throwing water to?" I think it was the east. Why are you throwing water to the suns? So what he did is he just got into the same pool and he started to throw water to the west of Punjab, where he said, "My fields are there." And then the pundits turned out, "This guy's going crazy. What's going with him?" And he goes, "What's wrong?" He goes, "What are you trying to do? I'm trying to send water back to Punjab because that's where my fields are." And he goes, "Well, are you silly? Do you think your water's going to get there? Oh, what were you doing?" "Well, we were doing that because we were trying to pass water to our ancestors that have gone, that have passed away, so that they achieve, salvation." So he challenged in a different way. His thing was not of conflict. It wasn't to go and tell that person verbally that you're doing something wrong, but just think about what you're doing. He went to a mosque where Muslims said, "Come and pray with us, then you can show us that you're one of us." He goes, "Yeah, I'll come and pray with you." He started to pray, and then all of them were doing the prayer, and then he stood up and he stood to the side. So the priest started looking around and thought, he ain't doing this. He's not playing the part. What's going on? And then afterwards, he was asked a question. He goes, "Well, why didn't you join in prayer with us?" It's because you weren't present in the prayer. So he said, "What do you mean I wasn't present? I was right here." He goes, "No, you were counting horses in Kabul," because he was going to go and buy horses in Kabul. And you, the other one, was scared about, you just had a calf in your household, and that calf was going to fall into the hole, and you were worried. So when we pray sometimes, or when we think we're doing something sometimes, we're actually not there. We're committing a kind of mechanical act. So what he did was put a fragrance on it all and said, actually become truthful with yourself of what you're actually doing. And that's why, a lot of what he did worked and was welcomed by all, but also it was accepted. He wasn't in conflict. It was a collaborative approach. So hence the, kind of a little bit coming into the title. So what do we basically do? What do Sikhs do, apart from being really hairy like I am and wearing these big things on our heads? We pray we believe in honest work, and we believe in sharing like we're doing today. The prayer bit is meditation, is your quiet time. It's your time of reflection. So you can call it reflection. Yeah? Words make your world. Language. So the L in words, I thought it was quite neat when I saw that. But language that you use and we all use make your world. So be careful about what language you use. Sometimes pray, has different connotations for different people. But essentially we believe in meditating, having our reflective time, honest work. Honest work, what does that mean? So that when I'm treating a person's eyes, if I'm thinking about the money that I'm going to get from the treatment, then I'm with the money. I'm not with the work. So what we believe in is an altruistic way of life. You earn your bread, but you do it in an honest way. And that's how we should be doing it, and I'm sure we all, me included probably at times, fall out of that. Virtue and vice do not come by mere words. Actions repeated over and over again are engraved on the soul. So spirituality, when people talk about being spiritual, they can sit here like here and give sermons about being spiritual. But in actual fact, it's your actions in your daily life. Hence, when you hear of people like we've heard here involved in spirituality who end up committing atrocities, why? It's because they believe that verbalization means that I'm ticket to heaven. But it doesn't exist that way, because it's absolute truth. That it's your actions repeated over and over again that align yourself with your soul. And it's those that we have to wash. It uses great metaphors within the text, but there were these yogis that used to be these super men of the meditation world. They could levitate, they could do things, they knew all the Veds inside out. So he went on their most popular occasion, and he went to speak to them, and he said, and they all showed their superpowers, and he said, and he goes, have you all had enough now? More or less. And then he said, okay, shall we have a conversation? And he said, well, what's the way that you dress? You haven't got the contentment earrings. You don't cover yourself with ashes. And what he said is, I think a little bit differently to you. Make contentment your earrings. So you don't have to wear them here. You content with your life? You're always having a go at those poor people who live in the community, who are living as we live today, as community. They used to think that they were lower than them because they were in the community and they were practicing what normal people do, like have sex, have children, and do all those things. They thought they were lower. He goes, but you go there with your begging bowl trying to ask for food from them. What does that make you? Because he made them think. And what he said is, make humility your begging bowl. Meditation, the ashes that you put in your body, don't go and burn a cow and then put the ashes on yourself. Meditate and make that the thing of your remembrance. So spirituality has had a bad press. Religion has had a bad press. God doesn't belong to a religion. Spirituality, and this is one of the things that I read and I wanted to come to this talk, was because it's not belonging to a religion. Spirituality doesn't belong to any facet or group. Self-control, furnace, metaphors continue. An eye surgeon talking about eye surgery. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that, if I don't operate on my own ills, my own mental health problems, my own judgments, then I'm not a true eye surgeon. So why? Why that bit? We all have to be eye surgeons because we're here. Everyone's come as an individual, but everyone's got different questions. Yeah? But are we dealing with some of the facets within ourselves, which we'll go on to in a little bit? Conflict. Does it come from action with ego and response with ego? Okay, you call doctors bad, I'm going to stick up for doctors, I'm going to have it out with you. Rather than actually saying, there might be an element of truth in what you're saying. I know doctors and I know patients. I know good doctors and I know bad doctors. Just as I know good people and bad people. So within humanity, when you go to a doctor, a psychiatrist, or anybody else, look at their life. Look at the way that they live. Look at the way that they spend their time. And then you will see how much of their practice is what you want to be a part of. So every psychiatrist is an individual. You shouldn't label all of them either with that brush. Or all eye surgeons with that same brush. Look at their lifestyle. Look at what they do. Because the words that they speak, are they actually reflected in the actions? Spiritual origins of mental health. Now, this is I didn't want to go into Punjabi because it's a bit much to teach you all that in about 10 minutes, 20 minutes of a talk. So I thought, Home dirg roga hai daru is hime. I've got some scholars here that I brought along just in case any questions came so I could direct them to them. But in essence, ego gets hurt. You can see how this works. I can get angry. I want to get revenge. My blood pressure goes up. I have a heart attack. How does something on a spiritual level manifest on a physical level? That's the link that I'm trying to draw. Mind, body, and soul. Unless the soul is looked after, the mind hasn't got a chance. And if the mind's not looked after, the body doesn't have a chance. So mind sickness, physical sickness, ego-based counseling, which is a term that a consultant psychiatrist uses in Canada, Vancouver. So if you have faith in atheists, we all stick together. We know that these religious people are basically giving the wrong messages, and we as atheists believe that just being humane is something. Do you have faith in something? Because having faith in something means you'll have some trust, some hope, and then there's optimism. Otherwise, that downward spiral of hopelessness doesn't help you physically. Science has proven now, in neuroscience, that if you've got a positive outlook in life, optimism, that manifests in a higher chance of cure for you. If you belong to a church, there's a higher percentage of cure. Studies being done, 4,000 people. If you're a regular church goer, doesn't matter, well, not just church, I mean in any denomination, you've got a 10-year or so survival increase, and that's a 4,000 patient study. You can see how hopelessness predisposes to low mood, depression. So you can see how the reverse of that, having an optimistic, chardi kala is a term that we use, but it means everlasting optimism. So, okay, I'm a bit low today, or I've been diagnosed with a problem. Is it the end of the, have an optimism. Okay, fine. That means that there's a problem. It's been highlighted, and I'm going to try now to deal with it. It's a form of everlasting optimism. The other bigger question, and I think we all forget, why is everyone here all together? Were you an accident of your mum and dad having a good night one night? Is that what it was? No, why? It's a question that I'm not saying that but what we believe as Sikhs, where have I come from? I've come from the Creator. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the Creator. Why am I here then? I'm here to connect with the Creator who is within the creation. So God is within each and every one of you because he just expanded himself out to the creation. So Sikhs believe service of the creation is service of the Creator. And it's a very, very fundamental part of it. And that's where the service of mankind, the tithing, etc., all of that comes into it. And don't forget, science is catching up. It was forbidden to smoke hundreds of years ago in these texts. Science now is showing that actually even passive smoking is bad. Science catches up, and it's only ever going to catch up. The spirituality was already there, and it was doing a good job. But as medicine came, pharmaceuticalization of medicine came, you've got a symptom, here's a pill, came, we all got lazy, communities became diffractionated, and what happened is that you came in under the shop. The shop is, we serve, what do you serve? We serve tablets, we serve prescriptions. I know GPs, and I know it's a common question, it's not unfair to GPs, I've got a prescription pad. So before the patient walks in, they had a pretty good idea about what was going on, and they wrote the prescription there. So we have denigrated the problem. Medicine wasn't the whole picture. There's something in India that is called Ayurveda, which is mind, body, and spirit. So whenever they deal with you, a medicinal person deals with you, they actually, first of all, are medicinally clean themselves. That is, they've got some form of regular meditation going on. They have a physical life themselves, which is completely pure, so they eat and drink what they talk about eating and drinking, and they live their life. And that person then asks you, Chetna, what do you think about most of the time? What do you eat? How do you live? They look at the whole holistic package, but they weren't in the business of making lots and lots of money. That's where, unfortunately, pharmaceuticalization of medicine has gone. And again, my talk is not about beating up pharmacies. What it is about you being responsible. Because it's you that have actually allowed them to thrive in the saying that not addressing the problems on a holistic level, I just want a pill, doc. I know lots of people that go, I just want a pill, doc. I don't want a lecture. Doc, shut up. I just want a pill. If you're not going to prescribe it, I'll go to the next doctor. I know that, and it happens, and that's society itself that has allowed whatever's to come about. So we don't believe in a hell or a heaven concept. If I sit here and I give this lecture and I've really, really helped you lot, I'm going to heaven. No, it doesn't exist like that. My heaven and hell in my mind, body, and spirit is right here. If I'm out of sync with that, I'm in hell. Yeah? So we don't have this big desire. And I just gave an end-of-life talk a few months ago. And in actual fact, a lot of this was relevant to that. We don't believe in end of life. It's not a time of absolute torture. It's not a time to be absolutely grieving and tying those poor patients up to medications so they can't go home and be with their family and loved ones. It's not about that. We don't believe in that as Sikhs. So I'm going to stop a little bit because I don't want this to become a sermon. But law of opposites. Now, there are some gold standards in life that all of us can apply, and they're actually better than some of the pills that are out there. And here they are. So these are the kind of ones that can lead you down a trap, can't they? You can see how being over greedy, being over vengeful can lead you down a health problem. So what we talk about is the virtues. And there's a nice, and if we cultivate, we all have the propensity to have all of this. And don't forget that. It's not like, oh, that person's a holy person. We all have the ability to become in the downtrodden hell and the heaven. It's how we apply the wisdom, our spiritual wisdom. And it's up to us to apply that in our lives. So negative health, lust, anger, greed, attachment, ego, these are the kind of major sins that probably in most faiths that they talk about. But the actual fact, they're quite useful. They're actually quite useful as well. They're not sins as in, let's call them negativity traits, but they actually have a purpose. If you never showed anger to someone who kept beating the hell out of you, you wouldn't survive very much. God hasn't given you, or the great ordered design, G-O-D, hasn't given you these traits as human beings because they're wrong for you. He's given them to you to use whenever you need to, but not be run by them. That's the difference. And in society, what a lot of, I believe, and there is more and more work coming out, a lot of mental unease or mental health problems are coming because we are somewhere along the line, we've looked at where the dynamic has been distorted. So my belief is that when you are dealing with a spiritual way of tackling mental health, what you're really looking at is addressing these aspects of your life as a human being. And when you do, you will realize change in your life. So the positive ones are pretty good. But guess what? Compassion. Science is proving right now that when you have a compassionate mind frame, your body releases certain neuroendocrine molecules, oxytocin, yeah, and other kind of molecules which actually make you feel really good. When you're doing good, so when we're in the Gurdwara and we're serving people, it doesn't matter what caste, creed they are from, and we're serving everybody because God is within all, when you're doing that, that's actually healing you. You're not the healer sitting there healing them. The act of altruism itself is healing, and science is just catching up because it's shown in those people that there was an increase in the neuroendocrine molecules which give you happy feelings, make you feel content. And what is also showed in something called neuroplasticity, in your body, a leopard doesn't change his spots in terms of his mind, but they do. They show that your mind can change with the right neuroendocrine mixture. So can you see how cultivating these, you're already working with the science inside you. So when they used to say, I'm going to ask you to practice a portion of compassion in your life and humility in your life and go out and be such and such, it was actually given as a little bit of a prescription in those days, long ago, not too long ago. And the reason why it worked is because the person who was looking and diagnosing that problem could see that that person is lacking that in their life. And if they use this technology, and it's a technology, it will work for them. It will bring them, back into order, back into physical and mental health. This is a concept that's really, appealed to me because I used to want to be one of these people that used to really chase IQ. What's your IQ score? And in fact, they've actually said that in the UK there was a study from Cambridge, I think it was Cambridge, which looked at and said it's been a failed generation. The last generation has been a completely failed generation. Why? Because all of them were chasing IQ and money and fame. They were taught, go to St. Paul's, go to Westminster, become the very top, so that you can then go and become the bankers, so that you can go and earn lots of money, so that then you can do what with it? It was a failed generation because the social values that were actually meant to be put into place at home, Mum and Dad said, sorry, I had to go and do my private work. I had to go and do this. And in fact, the chap at the school was a much better human being than I was. So I denigrated for £17,000 a year that to the headmaster. That's the kind of society we are. And that's the kind of children we create. Because we denigrate some of the things that should be coming from us as a family and as a community. We say, no, that's got to come from watching the iPad. That's got to come from school. Yeah, that's what we've done. Where are we now? The financial world, Harvard, has discovered EQ, emotional quotient. If I don't know how to look after you as my staff, I can't keep staff. And if I can't work with you, oh, Terry, you've had a bad day today. You all right? How's happening at home? If I don't know that, I don't really relate with Terry, so Terry doesn't want to come into work and he'll run the business down. It's only discovered this, but there's something higher than that, which is spiritual quotient, which doesn't just go on emotion. What it goes on, spirituality is universal. It goes on that we are all a part of the same mixture. It talks about, there's a phrase which I won't, your ears will, if I try and say it, it's in Punjabi. But what it basically means, we're all made from the same pot. And when I said to you, you feel compassion, your compassion is probably similar to my compassion. Your feeling of sadness is probably similar to my feeling of sadness. We're the same pot. Yeah? And what spiritual quotient recognizes is that we are all one as humanity. We are. But it's us that are creating those problems. So we talk about, different therapy. Now, so again, it comes to, the reason I put this in was that you're not one of these. I'm not just a Sikh. I'm not just a family man. I'm not a neuroscience, because I studied a bit of neuroscience and I can open up an app and I can read it and tell you something. That doesn't make me a neuroscientist. I'm a doctor. Why? Because I went to medical school. But can I treat all the other problems now when I'm just been an eye surgeon? No. I'll be a very bad doctor at being a chest physician, a family doctor, because I'm an eye surgeon. What we do is we label ourselves, but what we all got to do, and I just would plead all of you to do that when you get home. What do you recognize yourself as? Are you a part of the ultimate? And this was where this came from. Mantu Job Srupe, that is, you are a piece of the ultimate soul. That's within you. You've just got to recognize that. So you are God. God is in you. That's probably a time one, isn't it? So more history, going past that, power of language, psychiatry. So we're lovely to be joined by psychiatrists who are true experts in this field. I'm just somebody that's come in from a person maybe who's suffered from mental health problems, hasn't quite got to the remit of being seen by a psychiatrist. But I love the fact that the actual professionals have recognized spirituality, and that is a big, hooray moment. Because what we should see is that, yes, we've got people sitting here talking from the both divisions. And we need to welcome this dialogue further. So this is these discussions, and forgive me, you know, I really do want your views, and I want to share with you, because I'm not an expert. I'm just here to kind of share with you some aspects of spirituality which I think are important and which I've seen work within the community to help with mental health. This is really important. Now, altruism heals the brain. Why? Why does it heal the brain? I'll pick on you because I know you. Anybody? Anybody? Absolutely. What science is proving... Now, when I did neuroscience, it was really odd. I sat there and they told me everything that you've learned in the textbooks of neuroanatomy are wrong. And I said, why? Well, why did you teach us that? They said that the only way that we could convey some of the neuroanatomy to you and the studies to you was to compartmentalize the study and actually fudge it a bit and say the center for smell is here. The center for sight is here. He goes, it's actually not true. And I said, well, you're lying to us. And they said, yeah, because sometimes they feel that the only way that they can convey a message is to distort it. So rather than admitting that we don't know, what sometimes you hear in textbooks or self-help books that are created by people, sometimes it's something that's not completely true in its outline. And the reason is it's evolution. It's still evolving. Neuroscience still is catching up with what's happening when these professionals give you that medication, what's actually happening to your... And what they're saying now is that pain, a driver towards mental illness, pain, when it's chronic, ends up outside of the pain networks and into the emotional center in your brain that deals with pain. So there's a spinal surgeon who said that the most spinal surgeons you go to, they'll want to go and fuse the spine in order to heal your spine. But they say it doesn't work. Only 20%, which is less than placebo, work. So he said what they've discovered is that actually the pain, when it's chronic, it becomes centered in your emotional center. And the way that he dealt with that was that you have to go through a period of humility, a period of actually looking at what is driving that pain, writing it down, not dealing with it, just writing it down. And the reason for writing it down was to get it out of here, to have an outlet for it. So you don't write it down, go, I'll sort that, I hate the missus, or I hate this. No, it wasn't to sort that problem. What it was to get your thoughts out of your head. And when you do that, you release some of the neural networks to allow themselves to work better. So there's really fabulous stuff coming out on pain, chronic pain management, and drugs won't be the answer there. For those of you that don't believe in God or don't believe in this great ordered design, this was just I thought it was quite wacky, edging God out. But what I really wanted to look at was the negative and positive drivers. Ego is not bad. Here's another one. Ego is bad. No, nothing that you've been given is bad. It's how you use it. It's how you use it. So you can have a positive slant on how you use your ego, or you can have a negative slant. But essentially, you are a part of the ultimate I. Sorry, go ahead. Ism. Yeah. But the nice thing here is ego is a deep-rooted disease. This is one of the universal laws within the Guru. Ego is a deep-rooted disease, but in it lies its own cure as well. Because if you've got it and you can get yourself to recognize it, then you'll see how you are actually making yourself apart from the whole. So it's within it. And this is where, for me, I didn't know how to balance this talk, but I stuck to what I know better, I think. Maybe more, I'm comfortable with spirituality than I am with psychiatric illness. Collaboration. Really important, and this was shown by the dialogue that Guru Nanak took. So our gurus, what they did is they didn't sit there giving sermons. They actually went out there and they visited people. Why did they create the communal kitchen? where anyone in the whole world can go to any gurdwara, anywhere, and eat. Doesn't matter what they are, where they're from. Why did they create that? Because they did. Why? Because if you're hungry, you don't want to hear about anything else. The belly governs a lot. So what they said is, first thing you've got to do is satisfy somebody's basic need, which is to give them some food. So they used to say, before you start listening to any good thoughts, first you need to satisfy a genuine need of the human being, which is to eat. And that's why it was started. The fact that everybody sits on the same platform was, again, to give none of you are higher than the other. So the king of the time, the emperor, was forced to sit with everybody else. But they showed it in their example. What I'm trying to say is, if I sit here talking about all this, but then go back there and I'm horrible to my patients and I'm horrible to my wife, to give my kids a psychological illness by, introducing my wants and desires into them, then really I'm not a practitioner. I'm the cause of the disease in the community. And what I'd ask you all to do yourselves is how much are you responsible yourselves for causing the disease in the community? Yeah? So dialogue is really important. I love this thing, and this is kind of the last slides, because I know you probably all want to punch me out soon. But the soul, the mind, the body, the senses, the desires. And it's lovely, in the holy text. It talks about the soul is actually the owner of the chariot. Yeah? There's the charioteer who rides the chariot, which is your mind. So he's given jobs to do. Lift leg up, put leg forward. The chariot, the body, does the things. It does the neuro tasks. The horses are the senses. Now, why do they say look after the senses? When they look at your lustful behavior, your greed behavior, it's drawing the senses back. Because what route are your senses on? They're heading to a road, maybe, to mental unhealth or lack in health. So what it says is, your soul, if you can start connecting your soul to the ultimate, and you get good spiritual wisdom, which is essentially what I'm trying to share with you today, nothing more than that. It's just wisdom that I see is working in society. Then you'll be able to control your mind. You stop being just greedy for the money or just greedy for the power. You actually start looking. There was a lady that came to me. I run the Singh Health TV show, and they said, we want to know why Punjabi people don't take the tablets that they're meant to take. So I'd like to come to you, and my pharmaceutical company would like to come and sponsor me to come and find out. And I said, well, why would I allow you in? Why would I allow you in? And I said to her, I said, look, I talked to her. She was a rep from a company, yeah? And I said, if I allow you in, and you discover all the other ways that they protect themselves with, or they rely on, so that they only rely on your medication, and your medication after your PhD proves to be a poison, I've let poison into the community. Why would I let you in? And she looked at me and said, I'm just a PhD student. I just want to get this study done. I said, look, but you need to think further than that. Your pharmaceutical company is sending you to me. Why? Because you've got access to this community. Why? And maybe the community has something else more powerful that it's trying to and I don't want you to be able to infiltrate it. So, and it was a very nice discussion, but it was asking her to question her own motives. So she didn't ask, because she didn't trust in her company. She didn't know what the company was trying to sell. She was trying to do a PhD study. How much of what we do is after what we watch on TV or what we've read in The Sun? Oh, they're all bad. Nice little picture. Once I saw a picture of somebody on The Sun that looked very much like me, and I thought, oh my God, how did they get me? The similar typical appearance, if you put somebody with a beard, a bit scruffled up, he's part of that kind of faction of group. I said to my wife, look, it looks like me, on a Sunday when I don't put my hair up. So a lot of what runs in our minds is what these papers, what the media, and what we choose to look at, because you don't have to turn that TV on, but you want to. Shut up, kids, we want to watch EastEnders. What's Dot doing today? Is Dot going to tell you about the meaning of life? No. The meaning of life will come from the spiritual texts, or listening to people who are practicing spirituality, and then try and see the wisdom within it. If you look at the person, what we're allowing ourselves to be exposed to the muck, and then we're saying, why is the muck in the head? It's because we've got to switch on our senses. We've got to wake up. And what it talks about in spirituality is waking up. It actually talks about when you meditate and you sit, I was at a really bad time in my life, and a lot of it, I like to talk from my own experiences because I think they're the only experiences you can talk about, really. I was in a really bad way in my life about 10 years ago. I was the chewing gum on the floor, yeah, and some of you may be able to understand where you are when you're that low. And I was crying, and I said, there's no point going on, there's no point going on. And what happened was that I luckily phoned one of my spiritual mentors, who wasn't quite my spiritual mentor, who's somebody that somebody gave me a number of. And I phoned them, and they said, just for 15 minutes, Jazz, sit, breathe, and just say something. It was called Vaheguru, which is our version of our Ram, our Allah, whatever you call it, or, prayer. For 15 minutes, I said, yeah, but don't want to do anywhere with it. Jazz, just for 15 minutes, sit down and just do that. Okay, put the phone down, 15 minutes of slobbering on the phone to him, so I thought, I might as well try this. And I tried that 15 minutes. Now, what did it do? 15 minutes, and I came out of it, my body felt different, my thoughts were different. I was able to deal with what I was thinking a little bit better. What had he done? What he'd done was to give me something to do, which is a form of kind of behavioral therapy. Yeah? He'd give me something to do to take myself away from the problem. When I took myself away from the problem, my body started to feel better. It wasn't doom and gloom. So what he taught me was that you are in sympathetic mode when you're angry. You know, sympathetic mode when we talk about fright, flight. Fright, flight. When your body gets to that point, the adrenaline's riding over, everything's, no. What he took me out was, he said to me, Jazz? He could have just said, Jazz, breathe for 15 minutes, but he knew he had to give my mouth something to do, because as you know, I talk a lot, yeah, from this presentation. So what it did is it took me away from it, and I'm telling you, it worked. And I won't talk about anybody else, I'll just talk about myself. And what that showed me was a glimmer 10 years ago that spirituality can help you. I could have gone to my GP and he probably would have said, look, I think, you're going through a bit of a crisis, and I think, I'm sure he was right. And he probably would have sent me to, a psychiatric colleague, and I would have been dealt with there. But I happened to have knocked on the door of a spiritual person who told me do this. So what they are doing is they're actually using spirituality. That's my 5-minute call. They're all technologies. I want you to get away from this. I've got this latest pill. It's from Glaxo, and they've created this. All of these are technologies as well. What we talked about here, the humility, the compassion, the doing service to others, because it actually changes the neuroendocrinology of your body, which heals you. So technology is embedded within spirituality. It's not disjoint from it. The Haldi tablet has been created recently. Haldi tablets make you healthy, anti-cancer, antioxidant, anti-everything. Well, they've been in the diet of Asians for millennia. And it used to be in the food. And it was pretty much free. Now they're selling capsules of it because science has suddenly discovered the virtues of antioxidants. So what I'm trying to say here is that the answers are within. And we should start to look at these. And there was something about Peter there I wanted to say, but I'll save that for another talk of some of the discussions. What have we done in Sikhs? So apart from talking here, we've run TV health shows where we brought psychiatrists, we brought people from the spiritual paradigms together on TV, and some of them on YouTube. And what it was is actually for the Asian community, because the Asian community, unfortunately, if you go to a GP who doesn't speak Punjabi, you're not going to get very good healthcare advice sometimes. So what we tried to do as a voluntary thing was that us as doctors said, let's get together, let's share our knowledge, but put it into Punjabi and tell them, and signpost where you can get help. So we've done mental health, drop the fat, we've done all those kind of talks. There was a national conference which was joined with the NHS in Bedford. I don't know, I think, Chetna, you may have been a part, in 2012, where we brought leaders, patients, all these groups together to start to talk about it, and the NHS was very much a part of that, because there's a great burden of disease. It's going to cost money, so government's going to be really, really, really interested in mental health, and it is. And guess what they're doing? They're getting all these celebrities to come forward with mental health. Why? Because it's a costly affair. So what's happening is the NHS is recognising this. And the last one here, the last Sikh Mental Health Conference, was 600 delegates came to Birmingham. 600 that did mini workshops together in groups, 10 tables. Yeah? And they shared a lot of the problems that are in the community, the stigma, the problems, how we can get... So those faith communities are getting together, they are building, they are creating networks that kind of work alongside NHS, but they're not doing for the NHS. So I want you to get that out of your heads when you think that it's another way for the NHS to get pills inside you. It's not. It's actually more than that. And I think that's pretty much my talk. I've mentioned a lot about the neuroscience of spirituality, and a term that I think I've coined, but I don't think I have. They've shown studies, the structures of the brain change after meditation. Breathing exercises, regular breathing exercises, control your autonomic system. So before I'm pulled off the stage, I just thought that I would end with that, and thank you for sharing and listening to me, and I would love to hear from you all on a personal level about what you think, but more importantly, where do we go from here, all of you? What are we going to do with what we've talked about today? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Hello. I'd like to thank Margaret, who is our Vice Chair, in the absence of Ben Benno, who's unfortunately incapacitated, and particularly to Amric, who I think was instrumental in putting this all together, wherever he is. Right, yes, he has. Chetna for opening the presentations, and to Dr. Alaji for his presentation, and lastly to Dr. Grewal. All thought-provoking elements for an afternoon. And I was just sitting there wondering, how many of such presentations we've had. And I think it must be between about 80 and 100 over the last 15 or so years. But there were a number of key words that I felt came out of the three presentations. One, of course, was spirituality, which is the main one. But coming from that, conveying the need for self-examination, the respect of others, and the all-important inclusiveness. Faith, trust, hope, optimism are such key elements. And as I think he was trying to convey, don't believe all that you immediately perceive, from Dr. Grewal. Anyway, thank you all for coming. You make the afternoon. And thank the speakers again.
ਇਹ ਸੀ ਜੀ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਧਿਆਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਬਹੁਤ ਕੀਮਤੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਇੱਕ ਨਵਾਂ ਪਰਸਪੈਕਟਿਵ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਧਰਮ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਈਂਡਫੁਲਨੈਸ ਨਾਲ, ਸਪਿਰਿਚੁਅਲਿਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹੀਏ। ਇਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਵੈਰੀ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਟਿਵ। ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਤੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਜੋਏ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਅਗਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਨਵੇਂ ਵਿਚਾਰ, ਨਵੇਂ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ, ਨਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨਾਲ ਫਿਰ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੋਵਾਂਗੀ। ਤਦ ਤੱਕ ਲਈ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਦਿਓ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।